I've looked at them in more detail.
So, 88 pounds and others.
Okay, welcome to American Dream Garage. Today we're going to do a video on my 1970 Pontiac GTO. We'll go for a test drive. We'll do a walk around on the car. I'll show some pictures, and then we'll see it in action. One of the things that I like about Pontiacs, and I've never really been able to explain it, and I've mentioned it on other videos, is for the most part, all the Pontiacs I have are very tight, well put together. They drive well, solid, they don't rattle. This car is no exception. This car is a really good package relative to comfort and power. It has a 400 V8 with 330 horsepower. It has I'll say an add-on manual ram air package, as well as the hood tack and the rear spoiler that was used on the Judges. These were all options that were added very tastefully and with quality on a documented factory GTO. So we will take it for a drive. All right, let's go for a test drive. Okay, Pontiac GTO first came about in 1964. It was first produced in late '63, and some say Jim Wagoners, who signed this car, was the creator, but he basically gives credit to John DeLorean. The GTO was one of the early muscle cars. Obviously, Ford came out with the Mustang in 1964 and a half. This was a 64. Camaro, Firebird were 67. So this was one of the early muscle cars. And the early ones were a trim package on the Pontiac Le Mans. Put a 289 with 325 horse. Later came out with the Tri-Power, which was 350 horse, and had various versions of the car up through the first generation to the second generation, which this car is. Second generation was 1968 to 1972. Probably one of the better years, I believe, was 1970. In 1970, they came out with a 455 and various Ram Air packages from a 1, 2, 3, 4, with the Ram Air 4 being a underrated 370 horsepower, probably well in excess of 400 horsepower, and those more powerful engines were what was put on the Judge. Again, not all Ram Air 4s. The Ram Air 4s are very rare, but 455s and Ram Air versions. The second generation ran through 1972. By then, it was beginning to be detuned. So detuned, not like this particular car, which this car is a 400 V8 with 330 horsepower. It does have a Ram Air package added to it. But to finish the story on the GTO, in 1973, they had the Colonnade Le Mans, which was what they called that model. They had 455s, but by then they dropped to 250 horsepower. And then the final GTO, I guess of the muscle car era, was in 1974, and that was put on it was a 350 in a Ventura, which again, the 73 and 74 were unique cars, and they were very interesting cars. That they just didn't pack the same punch as the early GTOs. So there was a later GTO that came out, which I believe was manufactured by Holden in Australia, which had quite the following. But again, going back to the original 65, 66, 67, as well as up through 1970, great cars, and held a pretty strong place in the development of the muscle car. So anyway, thanks for joining me today at American Dream Garage and coming along for this ride. If you like the video, please hit like, as well as consider subscribing to the channel. Thank you.